Today, I want to talk about wedding culture and how, in my opinion, it's completely getting out of hand. And please excuse the patches today. I have some really gnarly spots. My skin is just out of control at the moment, but yeah, hopefully they're not too distracting. But I got married last year in March, and it really opened my eyes to wedding culture because I'm not one of those girls. I didn't like grow up planning my dream wedding, that sort of thing. I didn't really give weddings much thought until I actually got engaged. And yeah, it was a very eye-opening experience. So I would like to talk about that. As with all my videos, it's just my opinion. If you disagree, that's absolutely fine. I'd actually love you to comment below. Tell me your opinions and experiences of wedding culture. Have you gotten married? You planning a wedding? Do you not want a wedding? Like, what are your opinions? I would love to hear them. I feel there's multiple things at the moment that are bothering me about wedding culture. And to start with, it's the ever-growing costs. It just feels like the cost of weddings are getting completely out of hand. And I'm not talking about, like, say, the mega rich or the celebrities. They're always going to spend like stupid amounts on weddings because they've got more money than they know what to do with. But I'm talking about like regular people, like people in my income bracket or maybe slightly above, having these like £100,000 weddings, which they can't really afford. And I can't get my head around that because there's so many ways you can have a nice wedding and not spend a load of money. So I don't know why they're doing it. Is it family pressure? Social media pressure? One thing I observed during the wedding planning process, I was on like quite a few Facebook groups for wedding planning and then Reddit groups as well. But Reddit is a cesspit, but anyway. And there is quite a great divide between the people who are spending beyond their means and spending a lot of money on weddings, and then people like me who are like doing really nice weddings but like on a shoestring budget. And yeah, those two sides do not get along because you just have us here being so happy, like, oh, my wedding only costs like, I don't know, £1,000. And for some reason, that really gets under the skin of the people who are overspending, and they go, oh, it's not a competition about who's got the cheapest and stuff like that. But I do wonder, is it because they're deeply regretting spending as much as they have and it's too late to back out? Because that's one thing I saw a lot on the wedding planning subreddits. There is a subreddit, I think it's like weddings under 5k, so those are for the lower budget weddings, and there's ones like weddings over 5k, which are the ones that are spending more. But I did see a lot of posts of people like, oh, I've put down a deposit on my wedding, I've paid like 50 grand or whatever, but now I'm really worried because the economy's bad, so on and so forth. So I feel like, again, those are the people who don't really have that money to spend in the first place. So I just struggle to understand, why would you put yourself in such a precarious and stressful position just for one day? Like, weddings are lovely, it's a nice day, but it's literally one day. To me, that's like spending 50 grand on a birthday party. Even if I had that sort of money, which I don't, I personally can't rationalize spending that amount of money on one day. But that's something I saw a lot on Reddit, is people that were in deep and using credit cards as well. My own wedding, it came together pretty quickly. I planned it in like 2 months. I was engaged for almost a year, but I just had this vision of the day that I had to get married. And I was like, okay, I've got to make it happen. I only had 2 months, but we budgeted. We didn't want to spend over 2 grand. So because that is like top spending for us personally. Didn't want to spend over 2 grand. And to me, I don't have any regrets. Like, I'm really happy with how my wedding turned out. I wouldn't want to change anything. I didn't feel like I skimped or like, oh, I wish I spent more money on so and so. I was really happy how it turned out. And I did have like a smaller one. I wasn't inviting like 100 people. I kept it really small. I had about 20, I think, altogether, 20 people. And I also did it in a weekday as well because that was slightly cheaper. And yeah, so I didn't spend too much on mine, but I don't have any regrets. But even if I was in a position to spend more on mine, I just wouldn't have, because it makes more sense to me personally. If I'm going to spend, like, let's say just 10 or 20 grand, for me, that makes more sense to go towards like buying a reliable car, a house deposit, or like good quality furniture. I'm a bit more of a long-term thinker. And I probably have more of a scarcity mindset because I didn't grow up rich. Like, I grew up poor. I'm not talking about like on the breadline, but pretty poor. So I feel like I'm obviously going to have more of a scarcity mindset than someone who has grown up with wealth. So if I'm making a big financial decision, I weigh up all my options and I'm like, does it make sense to spend money on this thing that's only going to last one day and is fleeting? Or is it better to just have a long-term investment? So say something like a car, or towards a house deposit or a good piece of furniture. Just for me, spending big money always makes more sense to do long-term things. And it's kind of a similar, not argument, but discussion I've had with people close to me about traveling as well. I understand going on holiday, but the people spend like thousands going on holiday. Again, for me, it's something I personally wouldn't do, because yes, it's an experience, but it lasts like maybe a week and then you're going to forget about it. So for me, it just makes more sense to spend that sort of money on a more long-term investment. But again, that's just probably because of the way I've grown up, and money is not an infinite resource in my life. Again, on Reddit, on the wedding subreddits of the people paying more, the higher earners, there was a lady, the dress was beautiful, but spent 100 grand on her wedding dress. And again, do what you want with your money, but from a personal point of view, again, it's just something I feel that's a little bit out of hand, because again, it's something you're probably only going to wear once. I know some people do frame their wedding dresses, which I think is a really nice way of reusing them, but a lot of people, like mine, I've worn once, and I'm actually going to just donate mine because I don't really have a purpose for it now. But yeah, I just can't get myself into the mind frame of spending 100,000 grand on a dress, because personally I don't think you need to, unless you're going to be using the most rare materials, like, I don't know, spider silk. I feel like you can get an absolutely stunning dress for a few thousand. I just feel it's unnecessary. I also feel like guest lists are slightly getting out of control, but there's a couple of contributing factors to this, I do know, because I know some venues or caterers, they have a minimum you have to book for, so you have to have a minimum amount of guests. But again, it's just putting people under financial pressure they don't need, because then you're having to invite hundreds of people to your wedding to make up the numbers and provide food and stuff all for them. And the problem is most people do not know closely that many people, so you have to end up inviting randoms and your teacher from primary school just to fill seats. And from a guest point of view, I would really dislike if I knew I was like a seat filler. I would not want to go personally if I was not close to that person. But also just having that hundreds of guests is just going to put more strain on your purse strings. And then also I feel like when you have to kind of have a minimum number and have seat fillers, the quality of stuff in the wedding for those guests isn't great. So for example, the food, I do find like the weddings of people that have a huge guest list but they're not super rich, the food really suffers. Either the portions are really small or the food is just complete slop. So is it really worth having that many guests if the quality of the rest of the wedding is going to suffer? Personally, I would just look for venues that don't have a minimum or have a low minimum. Dresses as well. Again, I feel like this is kind of a social media effect. It's having to just go bigger and better with the dresses, because you see the celebrities and the influencers with these massive dresses with like 20-foot trains. I feel like the cost of dresses and how much people are spending on dresses is a lot. Like it's a bit much. It's like I said previously, I feel like a couple grand and you can get a really nice dress, but I just can't imagine paying for and a dress being worth like 10, 20, 100 grand, because I'm not someone, obviously don't buy designer clothes, I can't afford them anyway, but if I could, I just wouldn't, because I can't justify spending that much on clothes, especially ones that I'm not going to reuse and rewear. My own wedding dress, I paid £80 for it, and it was custom made to my measurements. I got it from Azazi, I think it's like a Chinese website, But I made sure to read the reviews and stuff because I was like, oh gosh, it does seem a bit too good to be true. But the reviews were good. So yeah, I got mine for £80. Completely happy with it. It fit lovely. And it didn't look like it was £80. It didn't look cheap. It didn't feel cheap. So I was happy with that. And yeah, I just knew I wouldn't wear it again. So I just didn't want to spend a lot on it. Also, what's your opinion on multiple dresses? Because I see people having like multiple dresses and I feel like that's becoming a bit excessive. It's not even just, I know some people have the really big wedding dresses, so then like in the reception they change into one that you can move about in more, but I've been seeing a lot more weddings when they're having like 3 dress changes or 4, and I'm just like, come on now, this is a bit excessive. The food of it all. Yes, food for me is one of the most important parts of a wedding, because a lot of the time weddings are in locations where there's not like shops or restaurants nearby, and your guests tend to be there all day if you're having a long wedding. So you need to make sure you provide enough food and good quality food. But I'm kind of going the other way with this discussion. Most of the things I'm discussing today is people spending an excessive amount. But what I find with this, with these expensive weddings now, they are skimping on the food, which is insane to me. So you can spend 100 grand on your dress, on your venue, and then you're trying to give the bare minimum of food to your guests. Like, this is so annoying to me, and I would be so annoyed if I attended a wedding like this. Another thing I saw quite frequently on the wedding subreddits when I was wedding planning was people saying, oh, I've spent this amount, large amount on the wedding, but do you think I can like cut the food costs or provide less food, or how can I get the food costs down? Can I just give them like ham and cheese sandwiches? The bigger, more flashy, expensive weddings always seem to skimp on the food, and I feel like that's so disrespectful to your guests. It's so disrespectful, and that's why I made sure out of the budget of my wedding, I wanted the majority of it to go on the food, because I wanted to make sure everybody had a full tummy, lots of options, and walked away happy and not like wouldn't be trashing. That would be my nightmare, if people like trashing the food at my wedding. So for me personally, that was one of the most important things to put the most money towards. But I'm just like, if you're going to go all out and spend a lot and be flashy on a wedding, just have decent food. Like, take 5 grand off of, I don't know, the floral arrangements or whatever, and just have decent food. I hear way too many horror stories of bad food at weddings. Somebody that I personally know, their sibling got married, had a big wedding. I think it was another one, it was like 100 and something grand. And it was black tie, really fancy, in a manor house, but they said they ran out of food and drinks pretty early on, so everybody was like hungry and thirsty, but they were in the countryside, so you can't just walk to the shop or anything like that. And then the food they had, she said, was just standard buffet, not great at all. So that is actually like a real life example of what I'm talking about. My flower opinion might be controversial, which is fine, but personally, I don't see any point spending thousands on real flower displays. And even a bouquet. So in the end, I got like a fake bouquet, and the flower displays on the table, they were fake as well. You know, you can get fake flowers, ones that look like realistic. They were those sort of flowers. But again, it's something that's not going to live very long, maybe a week maximum, the floral display. So you can't reuse them or enjoy them for very long. So I'm just shocked at how much people actually spend on flowers as decorations. Bouquet is different. Like, I can understand people wanting a real bouquet. I wanted a fake one because I wanted to keep it. I really wanted to keep it as a keepsake after. Bouquet I can kind of understand, but the floral arrangements, you know, like for the tables, some people have for the staircases and stuff like that, I just think is a little bit too much. They look beautiful, but it's a lot of money to spend on something that's gonna die in a few days. Right, this one gets me riled up a little bit, but it's kind of the stress and expectations that are put on any guests or people involved in the wedding. Fair enough, you're the bride and groom. If you want to stress over your wedding, that's fine. But I think it's so unfair to put that stress on everybody else. So your bridesmaids, your groomsmen, so on and so forth. that is getting out of hand. And I feel like the expectations of some married couples are getting out of hand in that respect. And that's why you're seeing a lot more TikToks and stuff of bridal parties falling out. I've seen so many recently, like, oh, I got married and my best friend was the maid of honor and we're not talking anymore. That's so common. And I'm like, it's such a shame to break down a friendship over a wedding. Like, it is not worth the stress at all. Way too much, in my opinion, way too much hype has been put on weddings. At the end of the day, it's a lovely day, but it's just another day. And I feel like some people just act like it's the be all and end all. And is it really worth severing your relationships in your life for that? Well, what I want to rant about on this topic is stag or hen do's, or in America, bachelorette and bachelor parties. If you're going to have one that's really expensive, if you're going to have one that's abroad, which is pretty common here in the UK, personally, I feel like you should be footing the bill for your party and your guests. I think it's totally unreasonable to expect any of them to pay, especially when it is abroad and you got to pay for flights, hotels, entertainment. I think it's so unreasonable to expect them to pay. Or it's unreasonable if you invite them and they say they can't come because they can't afford it and you get mad about that. I think that just is really pathetic, to be honest. But that's just my personal opinion. I didn't have a hen do. One, I didn't want one. There was only 2 months between planning my wedding and having the wedding. I didn't feel like I needed one. It's not really my sort of thing. And also, I wouldn't have had one if I didn't think I could afford to pay for everyone. Like, I'd rather just not have one than make people pay for themselves. But yeah, I just think it's really a little bit mean when you're putting on so much cost and stress to your wedding party. And that same goes for, I feel like, as well, to do with the actual wedding. So if the wedding is abroad, or if they have to buy like specific dress, pay for their own hair and makeup, personally, I just think that is really mean as well. And again, I would not ask them to dress a certain way or look a certain way unless I was going to be paying for it, and that they're comfortable with that as well. I wouldn't want to force anybody to look a way that they're not going to be comfortable in. But I just feel like stag and hen do culture is getting out of hand. Like, why can't we just like have a spa day like at home, or even in a spa? To be honest, a spa would be cheaper than going abroad. But just having like, or just drinks like at a really cute bar. I don't understand, why does it have to be this crazy, some of them these crazy trips or like 3-day itineraries? And yeah, I think that is completely out of hand. Again, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. So destination weddings, so weddings that are abroad. Personally, again, I feel like if you are inviting people, you should be paying for it. You should be paying for their flights, their hotel, and so on and forth. I just think it is a really unrealistic expectation to expect people not only to be taking a time off work, that's fair, but then flying abroad and just paying for it themselves, because it's not even I've heard the argument, oh, it's like a holiday for them. Not really, because a holiday is something you plan. This is something you're kind of being made to go to. You're not going to be able to follow your own itinerary. So I would not find it a holiday or relaxing at all. And therefore, if I was going to go to a wedding abroad, I would not go unless it was funded. Again, that's just my opinion. One thing as well I feel gets overlooked a bit, even with the fancier weddings, is the guest entertainment. So I feel like, again, a lot of the money, okay, personally, I feel like maybe a lot of married couples mostly care about themselves with the wedding, but I feel like your wedding should be for everyone. So everyone you're intending to invite, it should be a community experience. So I find, again, on these more expensive weddings, they skimp on the entertainment for guests. There are large amounts of times in weddings where you're just sat around doing nothing, like when the married couple need to take pictures, sign documents, and it's just can be quite awkward, especially if it's a wedding, like it's not a family one, so you don't know many people there. And like me, I'm not a drinker, so I find that when you don't drink as well, it's a bit more of a dry experience just standing around. So I really feel like guest entertainment should be something as well as food that is actually spent on. And I just find it can be very lacking, and it's only really about the married couple and what's exciting to them, and just the guests just have to be grateful to be there. And yeah, that's not I'm not in agreement with that. Like at my wedding, I made sure I had like games table, I had like a snooker table, football table. If you are going to go over the top on the wedding, like just get some nice fun entertainment for your guests and make them feel part of it instead of just spectating. I think it's really nice to actually make people included in the wedding and part of it, because I feel like they're going to remember it more that way. One other thing I don't fully understand, maybe it's because I'm autistic, but I don't know, is like the drama surrounding weddings. Like I mentioned before, seeing so many stories of people having decades long like friendships, and then because of the wedding they blow up and fall out. A lot of people fall out with their family as well during weddings, and I'm like, why are the emotions so heightened? At the end of the day, it is just another day. It's a party, really. It's a party, it's a celebration of your marriage. I don't understand how people are blowing up so much over it. And is it because the wedding culture has gotten out of hand? So there's very unrealistic expectations on the wedding party or even the married couple. I'm like, can we cool it down a bit? I don't think it's that deep personally, and I don't think it's that serious. Also, wedding gifts. This one I feel like from people I've spoken to is quite controversial as well. But do we feel like the expected wedding gifts are getting a bit out of hand? Because I know traditionally it used to be stuff like silverware and stuff like that. People don't really buy that anymore or need that because we've already got forks and spoons and knives. But I feel like it's reasonable to give something in the region of like £100. I don't know if you think that's too cheap, but I think that's reasonable. But I'm seeing people asking for really, really crazy expensive things on their registries, and I'm like, that's nice, but I'm not just going to gift you that because you're getting married. I'm just not. I would love to know your opinion on wedding gifts. Again, I didn't have a registry, a list. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm not like other girls, but I genuinely didn't feel I needed anything. I feel like I have everything I need in my life. So I would have rather, I did say to people to spend the money on yourself. People still wanted to give money, but I didn't have a list. I didn't feel I needed anything. But yeah, I do wonder if some people, not all, are taking the mick a bit with their wedding lists and just using it as a way to get stuff they can't afford but they want, not that they actually need. On the flip side, one thing I did notice when I was planning the wedding last year and getting married is actually micro weddings are trending and they're actually much more acceptable. So I remember, I'll try and find the post. I was reading like lots of different blog posts and Instagram posts of people who had micro weddings. I remember one of them, I think, only had like 3 people there, and just the really unique ways they had a very small, like lower budget wedding, but didn't skimp at all. They were still absolutely beautiful and unique. So I do like, kind of on the flip side, yes, there are the people I feel personally are getting out of hand and going over the top, but there also is a kind of newer culture that are embracing the more lower cost, chilled, relaxed weddings. And I actually think micro weddings are super cool. And a lot more venues I found as well are accommodating for micro weddings. So like the place where I had my reception, there was no minimum amount of people I had to have. So I want to go through a couple of Reddit posts that I feel kind of sum up this video and some of the opinions I've expressed. I'm going to skim through this one because it's quite long, but it's on the wedding drama subreddit. And it says, I don't want to be in my friend's wedding. I'm in the bridal party for a wedding and I honestly do not want to attend at this point. The entire planning process has been a complete mess. For months, they kept asking her to start, this is the bride, asking her to start a group chat with the bridesmaids so we could all be in the loop and help plan things together. Instead, I get a text 2 in the morning on Valentine's Day asking if it would be okay to start a group chat. At that point, I just thought, why are you asking permission? Just make the chat and move forward. Now we are 1 week away from the wedding and only 4 out of the 10 bridesmaids even have their dresses. The dress information was only sent out at the end of February, or at least that is when some of us heard about it. I also just received a text this weekend asking if we could donate money and attend a bachelorette party this Saturday and Sunday. It feels like new requests and decisions are still coming in constantly at the last minute. The schedule is also confusing. The rehearsal dinner is Friday evening, but the wedding is Sunday evening, with the reception not starting till 7. Usually that wouldn't be a big deal, but the wedding is about 3 hours away in the middle of nowhere with nothing planned in between those days. There are also unexpected expenses. We were originally told that the hair and makeup would be covered because the bride wanted everyone to have the same hairstyle. Now we have to pay for it ourselves, which is apparently going to be $400. I would not have minded contributing if we had known earlier, but it's frustrating to find out about another large cost at the last minute. At this point, it feels like I'm hemorrhaging money for someone else's event. This is not my wedding, my child, or my life event. That sums up a couple of things I discussed about the cost and the stress and the expectations on the bridal party, which I think is totally unfair. As I've said, if you're the married couple or to-be married couple, that's fine if you want to stress yourself out. I think it's so unfair to stress your wedding party out and to be throwing these costs on them. Like, I find that disgusting, to be honest. I think that is just horrific. And then you can kind of see how this leads to the wedding drama then when the friends fall out and never talk again. And as I've stated before, is it really worth this for one day? Like, causing these people stress and destroying these relationships, is it really worth it? Okay, this one is crazy. It says, it's her second wedding and she said, I don't know how to pull this off. The budget is $150K. I wish I was exaggerating, I am not. Let me start with a key detail. This is my college roommate's second wedding. She is 38, he is 37, and this is his first marriage. I was a bridesmaid in the first wedding. I've personally never been to anything in my life as grand as that wedding was. Well, now it's time to plan wedding number 2, and she is upset because her parents are only giving her half of what they gave her for her first wedding. The budget, 150 grand. She says it's like she's planning a backyard potluck and not a 6-figure destination event. See what I mean? I don't even need to comment on that. Another one that's not shocking to me at all. So this post, $700 plus destination bride woes. So someone says, this was in a group of mine this morning. Bride wants to have 200 people on a cruise, but only a few are actually going. Found out after looking at her profile that the rooms are starting at $700 to $1,400, being the most expensive. She wants people to take off 6 days for the cruise. So again, this goes into what I discussed about like the destination weddings. Not only is the time off a huge ask because so many jobs are really stingy with holiday dates, and personally I would much rather use my holiday to go on holiday than to go to someone's wedding. But then also, again, expecting the guests to foot the bill on a cruise they probably wouldn't even pick, they don't want to go on, and then being upset when people don't want to go. Like, I feel like the least you can do is just be understandable when people don't want to go and can't afford to. I know it was a very ranty video today, but I've been sitting on like these opinions for the past year because I went in very blind to wedding planning and wedding culture. Again, it's not something I really thought about before, and I just found myself so shocked about the things that were considered normal, how people were behaving. So I really wanted to discuss it, but as usual, let me know your opinion. You don't have to have the same opinion as me or agree with me, but let me know in the comments how you feel, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.